Jamal Thompson was a 22-year-old young man living in the vibrant city of Atlanta, Georgia. With a captivating smile and unwavering determination, he faced life with courage and optimism. A university student, Jamal split his time between his computer science classes and a part-time job at a downtown cafe. On a Tuesday morning, Jamal's alarm went off at 6 a.m., just like always. He stretched, clearing the sleep from his eyes, and got up to start the day. "Good morning, Mom," Jamal said as he walked into the kitchen where his mother, Lisa, was preparing breakfast. "Good morning, son," Lisa replied with a warm smile. "I'm sure today will be a great day." Jamal smiled back, grabbing a toast. "I hope so. I've got an important exam today, and then I'm working the afternoon shift." After breakfast, Jamal grabbed his backpack and headed to the university. The classes were challenging, but he was determined to graduate with honors. After his last class of the day, he rushed to the cafe where he worked. "Hey, Jamal," greeted his coworker, Kevin, as Jamal changed clothes in the break room. "Ready for another shift?" "Always ready, Kevin," Jamal replied with a smile. "Let's go. We've got customers to serve." The shift went by quickly, with Jamal serving customers, making coffee, and keeping the cafe tidy. After finishing his shift, Jamal decided to stop by the local grocery store to pick up a few things for home. The grocery store was relatively quiet that evening. Jamal grabbed a basket and started picking out the items he needed. Meanwhile, across the store, Sarah Miller, a 24-year-old woman, was wandering the aisles. Sarah, with her air of superiority and confidence, was used to stealing small items without being noticed. Sarah picked up some cosmetics and discreetly placed them into her bag. However, a vigilant security guard noticed her suspicious behavior. Without wasting any time, he alerted the management and the police were called. In the meantime, Jamal was in the checkout line, unaware of what was about to happen. Two police officers entered the store, and the manager pointed directly at Jamal. "It's that one," the manager said. "He's the suspect." Jamal looked around, confused, as the officers approached him. "Sir, we need you to come with us," one of the officers said, with his hand on his gun. "What?" Jamal exclaimed, surprised. "I haven't done anything." "Just come with us," the officer insisted. Customers around began to murmur, and Jamal felt humiliation taking over as he was handcuffed and led out of the store. Jamal's nightmare was just beginning. The next morning, the sun shone brightly over Atlanta. Jamal woke up early, still feeling the anguish of the previous day's events. He needed to focus on his studies and work, but the memory of the wrongful arrest weighed heavily on his mind. Jamal was in the kitchen, sipping his coffee, when his mother walked in. Lisa noticed the downcast expression on her son's face. "Are you okay, Jamal?" Lisa asked, concerned. "I'm just still thinking about what happened yesterday, Mom," Jamal replied with a sigh. "It was so humiliating." "I know, honey, but you're strong, and we'll get through this together." Lisa placed a hand on Jamal's shoulder, offering comfort. "Today is a new day." Jamal tried to smile. He knew his mother was right. He grabbed his backpack and said goodbye. "See you later, Mom." At the university, Jamal immersed himself in his studies, trying to distract his mind. His friends, Kelly and Marcus, noticed something was wrong. "Hey, Jamal, are you okay?" Kelly asked, sitting next to him in the library. "Did something happen?" Marcus asked, joining the conversation. Jamal hesitated, but decided to share what had happened. "I was accused of theft at the grocery store yesterday," Jamal explained in a low voice. "They took me to the station, but then they found out it wasn't me. It was a girl who was stealing." Kelly and Marcus exchanged shocked looks. "That's awful," Kelly exclaimed. "They can't treat people like that." "You should do something about it, Jamal," Marcus suggested. "They can't get away with this." "I'm thinking about it," Jamal said, feeling a wave of support from his friends. "But right now, I need to focus on the exam." Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Sarah Miller was in her luxurious apartment. She was carefree, as if nothing had happened the night before. Sarah was the daughter of an influential businessman and was used to getting what she wanted without much consequence. She was chatting with her friend, Ashley, about their plans for the day. "So, what are we doing today?" Ashley asked excitedly. I was thinking of doing some shopping at the mall, Sarah replied, nonchalantly. I need some new things. You always need something new, Ashley joked, laughing. As Sarah and Ashley made their carefree plans, Jamal was at work, trying to concentrate. Kevin, his coworker, noticed Jamal was quieter than usual. Hey man, are you really okay? Kevin asked as they stocked the shelves. I'm just tired, Kevin, Jamal said, trying to hide his feelings. It's been a tough week. If you need anything, you know I'm here for you, right? Kevin smiled, giving Jamal a pat on the back. Thanks, man, Jamal smiled back. The shift ended, and Jamal decided to visit the grocery store again. This time just to prove to himself that he could overcome the trauma. As he walked in, he felt the eyes of the staff on him, but kept his head held high. While walking through the aisles, he encountered the same security guard who had called the police the day before. The guard looked at Jamal with a mix of guilt and shame. Hey, kid. The guard started, his voice low. I'm sorry about what happened yesterday. It was a mistake. Jamal stopped and took a deep breath, trying to control his anger. I just hope this doesn't happen to anyone else, Jamal replied firmly. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. The guard nodded, clearly remorseful. Jamal picked up what he needed and left the store feeling that, despite everything, he was stronger and more determined than ever. The fight for justice was just beginning, and Jamal knew he wasn't alone. That evening, Sarah Miller was at the grocery store, strolling through the aisles as if nothing could touch her. She was dressed in designer clothes and wore an expensive perfume, the perfect image of a young, upper-middle-class woman with no worries in life. As she walked through the aisles, Sarah glanced around to make sure no one was watching her. She picked up some cosmetics and discreetly placed them in her bag. It was something she did frequently, relishing the thrill of the act and the pleasure of not getting caught. On the other side of the store, Jamal Thompson, having finished his work shift, was doing his regular shopping. He picked up items for home, trying to forget the humiliating incident from the day before. As Sarah was about to leave the store, the security guard, having noticed her suspicious behavior, decided to intervene. He alerted the management, and the manager quickly called the police. We have a theft suspect here, the manager said over the phone. Yes, it's a young black man. He's at the checkout now. The police arrived quickly and entered the store with determination. The manager pointed directly at Jamal, who was distracted, placing items on the checkout counter. Sir, we need you to come with us, one of the officers said as he approached Jamal. What? Jamal asked, surprised. What's going on? You're being accused of theft, the officer replied, already putting handcuffs on Jamal. But I didn't do anything, Jamal exclaimed, feeling the humiliation and anger rising inside him. Check the security cameras. We'll sort this out at the station, said the other officer, ignoring Jamal's protests. As Jamal was led out of the store, Sarah watched the scene, surprised and a bit concerned. She had managed to escape once again, but something in Jamal's expression struck her. At the police station, Jamal was taken to an interrogation room, still in shock from what was happening. The officers began asking questions, but Jamal continued to assert his innocence. I was just shopping, Jamal said, exasperated. Please, check the cameras. Eventually, one of the detectives decided to review the security footage. When he saw Sarah stealing the items, it became clear that a terrible mistake had been made. I think we've made a mistake, the detective said as he returned to the interrogation room. You're free to go. Is that it? Jamal asked, incredulous. I was humiliated, arrested, and now you just tell me I'm free to go? We apologize for the error, the detective said, trying to be diplomatic. We'll take steps to ensure this doesn't happen again. Jamal left the station, still feeling the humiliation and anger burning inside him. He knew he needed to do something about it, but first, he had to go home and tell his mother everything. When he arrived home, Lisa was waiting for him, worried. Jamal, she exclaimed, rushing to hug him. What happened? They arrested me again, Mom, Jamal said, his voice trembling. But this time, I'm going to fight. I can't let this happen again. Lisa held Jamal's hands, looking into his eyes. I'm with you, son. We'll fight this together. Jamal knew the fight for justice would be long and difficult, But with the support of his mother and his community, he was more determined than ever to make a difference. Jamal woke up that morning with a deep sense of exhaustion. The memories of the past 2 days wouldn't leave him in peace. He felt a mix of anger and sadness that seemed unwilling to dissipate. He knew he had to move forward, but the emotional impact was still very present. "Jamal, are you sure you want to go to the university today?" Lisa asked as he ate breakfast in silence. "Yes, Mom," Jamal replied, trying to sound confident. "I can't let this bring me down." Lisa looked at her son with pride and concern. She knew Jamal was strong, but she also knew the situation had been traumatizing. "I just want you to know that I'm here for you." "Always," Lisa said, squeezing Jamal's hand. "I know, Mom," he smiled, grateful for her unwavering support. Jamal went to the university but felt disconnected from his classes and friends. People looked at him with curiosity and concern, and he couldn't help but feel as if he were under a microscope. During the break, Kelly and Marcus found him in the campus cafe. "Hey, Jamal, how are you doing?" Kelly asked, with a supportive expression. "I'm holding it together," Jamal replied, sighing. "But it's tough. I feel like everyone is watching me, judging." "You don't have to go through this alone," Marcus said, placing a hand on Jamal's shoulder. "We're here for you, always." "Thanks, guys," Jamal smiled, appreciating the support from his friends. "It means a lot to me." After classes, Jamal decided to go to the cafe where he worked. He needed the routine to keep his mind occupied. Kevin greeted him warmly. "Hey, Jamal. Good to see you here. How are you holding up?" "Trying to keep my head up, Kevin," Jamal replied, grabbing his apron. "Let's get to work." The shift passed quickly, but the sense of normalcy still felt distant. When it ended, Jamal decided to visit the grocery store again, even if just to confront the place where everything had happened. He felt he needed to face his fears. Entering the store, he noticed that some of the employees were looking at him with a mix of guilt and curiosity. One of them, the security guard who had called the police, approached him. "Hey, kid," the guard began, hesitantly. "I'm sorry for what happened. We did a terrible injustice to you. I just hope this doesn't happen to anyone else," Jamal replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity." "You're absolutely right," the guard said, clearly remorseful. "I'm really sorry." Jamal finished his shopping quickly and left the store, feeling a small sense of relief for having faced the situation. However, he knew the real battle was yet to come. He had decided to sue the grocery store and the police for racial discrimination, and he knew he would need all the strength and support he could get. That night, while at home, Jamal talked to his mother about his plans. "Mom, I've decided I'm going to fight for justice," Jamal said, determined. "I'm going to sue the store and the police." "I'm with you, son," Lisa replied firmly. "We'll find a good lawyer and do whatever it takes." Jamal knew the fight would be difficult and that he would face many obstacles, but he was resolved. The injustice he suffered couldn't be forgotten, and he wanted to ensure that no one else went through what he had endured. With the support of his mother, friends, and community, Jamal began planning his next steps. The fight for justice and dignity had only just begun, and he was ready to face whatever came next. At the police station, Detective Samuel Rodriguez was reviewing the security footage from the grocery store. He had been called in to resolve the theft case and was determined to uncover the truth. Watching the footage, he clearly saw Sarah Miller taking items and placing them in her bag. "So, it was her," the detective muttered, incredulous. Rodriguez called his colleague, Officer Jenkins, and showed him the footage. "Jenkins, check this out. We arrested the wrong kid. The real culprit is this young woman here." "Damn it," Jenkins replied, scratching his head. "We need to release Jamal immediately." Meanwhile, Jamal was sitting in the waiting area of the police station, still shaken by what had happened. When Detective Rodriguez approached, Jamal stood up, hopeful. "Mr. Thompson, we need to talk," Rodriguez said, his tone serious. "Have you found out who really stole?" Jamal asked, anxious. "Yes, and it was a terrible mistake on our part. The real culprit is a young woman we've identified from the footage. You're free to go, and we apologize for the error." Rodriguez spoke sincerely. "That doesn't change what happened to me," Jamal replied, with contained anger. I was humiliated and treated like a criminal with no evidence. We understand your frustration, and we're willing to help in any way we can to make this right, Rodriguez said. Jamal was released and went home. When he walked in, his mother embraced him tightly, relieved to see him. Jamal, what happened? Lisa asked, her voice trembling. They found out it was someone else, a girl who was stealing, Jamal explained, sitting on the sofa. But that doesn't change what they did to me. I want justice, Mom. Lisa nodded, with a determined look. We'll find a good lawyer and fight for this, son. The next day, Jamal and Lisa met with Marcus Bennett, a civil rights attorney known for his dedication and passion for justice. Mr. Bennett, I need your help, Jamal began, nervous. I was wrongfully accused of theft, and I want to sue the supermarket and the police for racial discrimination. Jamal, you have every right to seek justice, Marcus said, his tone firm. We'll fight together to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. With Marcus's support, Jamal began preparing the case. They gathered all the evidence, including the security footage, and started building a strong argument against the supermarket and the police. Meanwhile, Sarah Miller was in her apartment, trying to go on with her life as if nothing had happened. However, things were about to change for her as well. Detective Rodriguez, determined to correct the mistake, issued an arrest warrant for Sarah. Sarah was leaving a store when she was approached by police officers. Sarah Miller, you're under arrest for theft at the supermarket, one of the officers announced, handcuffing her. What? This is ridiculous. Sarah protested, trying to pull away. I didn't do anything. We have clear evidence against you, the officer replied, leading her to the patrol car. At the police station, Sarah was interrogated and eventually confessed to the thefts, knowing she couldn't deny the evidence. Back at Marcus Bennett's office, Jamal and Lisa were discussing their next steps. We're going to make sure justice is served, Marcus said with conviction. We can't let racial discrimination continue to harm innocent lives. Jamal nodded, feeling a renewed sense of hope. He knew the fight would be long and tough, but he was determined to move forward. Jamal's community began to rally, organizing peaceful protests and social media campaigns to support his cause. People were united, determined to fight against racial injustice. With the support of his mother, friends, attorney, and community, Jamal was ready to face whatever came next. The fight for justice had begun, and he was not alone. In the following days, Jamal tried to get back to his routine, but the traumatic experience still loomed over him like a shadow. He felt wary and anxious, especially in public places. The humiliation of being falsely accused and arrested wasn't easy to forget. One morning, while Jamal was at the university, Kelly and Marcus approached him in the campus cafeteria. Hey, Jamal, how are you doing? Kelly asked, sitting down next to him. Getting better, I guess, Jamal replied, forcing a smile. But it's still tough. I saw the news, Marcus said, pulling out his phone and showing him the screen. They're talking about your case on various social media platforms. Jamal looked at the screen and saw supportive posts, people sharing his story and condemning the racial discrimination he had faced. It looks like a lot of people are on your side, Jamal, Kelly said, trying to cheer him up. That should help with the case. Yeah, I hope so, Jamal sighed. But I'm still dealing with all of this in my head. Meanwhile, the media coverage of Jamal's case was growing. Articles and reports highlighted the injustice he had suffered, sparking discussions about racism and discrimination. Jamal's story had become a symbol of the fight against racial inequality. That evening at home, Lisa talked with Jamal about the situation. Son, have you seen the support you're getting? Lisa asked, sitting beside him on the couch. So many people are on your side. I've seen it, Mom, Jamal replied, looking at his phone, but I still feel lost, you know? Like this is all a nightmare. I know, dear, Lisa said, hugging him, but you're strong, and we'll get through this together. In Marcus Bennett's office, Jamal met with the lawyer to discuss the next steps in the case. Jamal, I have good news, Marcus said, flipping through some documents. The media is on our side, and that's going to put pressure on the supermarket and the police. We have a strong case. That's good to hear, Jamal replied, feeling a bit of relief. But what about Sarah? What will happen to her? Sarah has already been arrested and confessed to the thefts, Marcus explained. She will face the legal consequences for her actions. At least there's that, Jamal said, thoughtful. But I still want justice for what was done to me. We'll get that for you, Jamal, Marcus assured him with conviction. We won't rest until you get the justice you deserve. As Jamal's case progressed, Atlanta's African-American community rallied to support the cause. Peaceful protests were organized, and many people used social media to spread the message that racial discrimination would not be tolerated. At one of these protests, Jamal decided to participate. He was nervous, but knew he needed to be there. Standing with his community, Jamal, you're an inspiration to all of us, one of the protest organizers said, handing him a microphone. Would you like to say a few words? Jamal took a deep breath and grabbed the microphone. He looked out at the gathered crowd, feeling a wave of emotions. Thank you all for being here, Jamal began, his voice trembling. It's not easy to relive all of this, but seeing you here, supporting me, gives me strength. We cannot accept that discrimination and racism continue to exist. We must fight together for justice and equality. The crowd applauded and shouted words of support. Jamal felt a new determination rising within him. He knew the fight would be hard, but with the support of his family, friends, and community, he was ready to face any challenge. The reality of what had happened still weighed heavily on him, but Jamal was stronger and more determined than ever. The quest for justice and equality was not just his, but of everyone who believed in a better and fairer world. The day of the trial arrived, and the courtroom was packed with people who came to support Jamal. The media was also present, covering the case closely. Jamal, accompanied by his mother Lisa and his lawyer Marcus Bennett, entered the courtroom with a mix of nervousness and determination. Everything will be all right, Jamal, Lisa said, holding her son's hand. We're all here for you. Thanks, Mom, Jamal replied, trying to calm his nerves. Inside the courtroom, the judge entered and everyone stood. The case was announced, and the parties began to present themselves. The supermarket's lawyer, a middle-aged man named Robert Langston, appeared confident. This case isn't just about a false accusation, Marcus Bennett began, addressing the jury. It's about systemic racial bias that allowed a young white woman to be overlooked while a young black man was immediately accused and arrested without evidence. Robert Langston stood up to defend the supermarket. The supermarket deeply regrets what happened to Mr. Thompson, Langston said, but we insist that there was no malicious intent. It was a mistake that, unfortunately, can happen in high-pressure situations. A mistake that could have been avoided if not for racial discrimination, Marcus countered. The security footage clearly showed who was stealing. Yet, Jamal was arrested solely because of the color of his skin. During Jamal's testimony, he recounted in detail what happened that fateful day. I was just doing my shopping, as I always do, Jamal said, his voice steady. Suddenly, I was approached by the police and treated like a criminal. They didn't give me a chance to explain or review the footage. It was humiliating and frightening. The prosecution called Sarah Miller to testify. Sarah, now visibly remorseful, confessed to her actions. Yes, I was stealing, Sarah admitted in a low voice. And I'm deeply sorry for what happened to Jamal. He didn't deserve to go through this. After the testimonies, the judge called for a recess to deliberate. During the break, Jamal and his mother spoke with Marcus. You were amazing, Jamal, Marcus said with a smile. Now we just have to hope that justice is served. I just don't want this to ever happen to anyone else, Jamal replied, feeling a mix of relief and nervousness. When the court was reconvened, everyone returned to their seats. The judge entered and began to read the verdict. After considering all the evidence and testimonies, this court concludes that Mr. Jamal Thompson was unjustly accused and detained due to racial discrimination, the judge declared. The supermarket and the police are responsible for this injustice and will be required to pay damages to Mr. Thompson, as well as implement mandatory racial discrimination training for all employees. A wave of relief and joy swept through the courtroom. Jamal felt tears welling up in his eyes as his mother hugged him. We did it, son, Lisa said, her voice trembling with emotion. We did it. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Marcus, Jamal said, embracing them both. I couldn't have done this without you. This is just the beginning, Jamal, Marcus replied with a smile. Now we have to make sure real changes happen. As they left the courtroom, Jamal was surrounded by friends, family, and community members who came to support him. Kelly and Marcus, his college friends, were among them. "Congratulations, Jamal," Kelly exclaimed, hugging him. "You were amazing in there." "We're so proud of you," Marcus said with a smile. "Thanks, everyone," Jamal responded, emotional. "This means a lot to me." The courtroom victory was a significant step for Jamal and his community. They knew that the fight against racial discrimination was far from over, but that moment represented an important triumph. Jamal was determined to keep fighting, not just for himself, but for everyone facing similar injustices. After the courtroom victory, Jamal began reflecting on what it meant for him and his community. The quest for justice wasn't just a one-time event, but part of a larger movement against racial discrimination. He knew he now had a platform, a voice he could use to make a difference. A week after the trial, Jamal was sitting in a park, watching children play and families enjoying the sunny day. Kelly and Marcus joined him, bringing coffee and donuts. "Thinking about life?" Kelly asked, handing Jamal a cup of coffee. "Something like that," Jamal replied with a smile. "I was thinking about how all this has changed my perspective." "You've been through a lot, Jamal," Marcus said, sitting down beside him. "And you've come out stronger." "Yeah, but this isn't just about me," Jamal said thoughtfully. "It's about everyone facing injustice and discrimination. I want to do something to help, to prevent this from happening to someone else." "Are you thinking of something specific?" Kelly asked, curious. "Actually, yes," Jamal said, his eyes lighting up. "I'm thinking about starting an organization that offers legal and emotional support to people facing discrimination. Something that can really make a difference." Kelly and Marcus exchanged approving glances. "That's an amazing idea, Jamal," Kelly said enthusiastically. "And I'll be by your side to help however I can." "Me too," Marcus added. "Let's make this happen." Encouraged by his friends' support, Jamal began working on his project. He spent nights researching, planning, and reaching out to lawyers, psychologists, and community activists. His mother, Lisa, was also by his side, providing advice and emotional support. One night, as he worked on his laptop at the kitchen table, Lisa approached with a cup of tea. "I'm so proud of you, Jamal," Lisa said, placing the cup beside him. "You're turning something terrible into something positive for so many people." "Thanks, Mom," Jamal replied, holding her hand. "I couldn't do this without you." "And you're not alone in this," Lisa said with a smile. "Your community is with you." Over time, Jamal's organization began to take shape. He named it Voices for Justice, and it quickly drew the attention of many who wanted to help. They organized community meetings, emotional support sessions, and awareness campaigns on social media. One of these meetings took place at a local school, where Jamal spoke to a group of young people about his experience and the importance of fighting against discrimination. "Justice isn't just a right. It's a responsibility for all of us," Jamal said, looking at the young faces before him. "We need to stand up and speak out, not just for ourselves, but for those who can't." After the event, a young woman named Maya approached Jamal. "Hi, Jamal," she said shyly. "Your story really inspired me. I want to help with your organization." "Of course, Maya," Jamal said, smiling. "Any help is welcome. Let's make a difference together." As Voices for Justice grew, Jamal felt increasingly empowered and motivated. He knew the journey would be long and full of challenges, but he was ready to face them. Each small victory and each person they helped reinforced his determination. One day, during a meeting with his team, Jamal received a message on his phone. It was from Detective Samuel Rodriguez. "Jamal, I've heard about your organization." The message read, "I'd like to meet with you to discuss how the police can work better with the community. Can we schedule a meeting?" Jamal showed the message to Kelly and Marcus. "What do you think?" Jamal asked. "I think it's a great idea," Kelly said. "This could be an opportunity to really make a difference." "I agree," Marcus said. "Let's see what he has to say." Jamal responded to the message and scheduled a meeting with Detective Rodriguez. He knew it would be an important step toward building bridges and creating a productive dialogue between the community and the police. With his determination and the support of his community, Jamal was ready to continue his fight for justice and equality. The journey was just beginning, but he was prepared to face any challenge that lay ahead. Jamal and Detective Samuel Rodriguez met at a small cafe in downtown Atlanta. The atmosphere was tense, but both knew this conversation was crucial for creating understanding and, eventually, positive change. "Thanks for meeting with me, Jamal," Rodriguez began, taking a seat at the table. "I've heard about what you're doing with Voices for Justice. It's really impressive." "Thank you, Detective," Jamal replied, trying to hide his nerves. "I appreciate your interest in having this conversation." "Please, call me Sam," Rodriguez said with a smile. "I want you to know that I'm genuinely sorry for what happened to you. It shouldn't have happened." "I appreciate you saying that, Sam," Jamal replied, feeling a bit more at ease. "But what happened to me is just an example of a much larger issue. We need systemic change." "I couldn't agree more," Sam said seriously. "And that's why I want to work with you. We need to improve our officers' training and strengthen the relationship between the police and the community." "We have some ideas about that," Jamal said, pulling out a notebook where he had been jotting down ideas. "For instance, we want to implement regular workshops where the community and police can get to know each other and discuss safety and civil rights issues." "That sounds excellent," Sam replied, taking notes. "And we also need a bias training program for all officers. Something that goes beyond the basics and really helps them understand the realities of racial discrimination." "That's crucial," Jamal agreed. "We need to ensure that everyone, regardless of their color or background, is treated with dignity and respect." The meeting lasted over an hour, with Jamal and Sam exchanging ideas and outlining concrete plans. When they finished, both felt optimistic about the possibility of change. "This was a great start, Jamal," Sam said, extending his hand. "Let's stay in touch and start implementing these ideas." "Absolutely, Sam," Jamal replied, shaking his hand. "Thanks for being willing to work together." Meanwhile, at Voices for Justice, Jamal's team was busy organizing events and campaigns. Kelly and Marcus were coordinating a series of talks at local schools to educate young people about their rights and how to handle situations of discrimination. "We need to make sure young people understand their rights," Kelly said during a team meeting, "and that they know they have support." "I agree," Marcus said. "And we also need a hotline where people can report discrimination cases and get immediate help." That night, Jamal came home exhausted but satisfied. He sat down with his mother in the living room. "How was the meeting with the detective?" Lisa asked, handing Jamal a cup of tea. "It went well, Mom," Jamal replied with a smile. "I think he really wants to make a difference. We'll start implementing some ideas soon." "That's wonderful, son," Lisa said proudly. "You're making a big difference." "I hope so," Jamal replied, thoughtful. "There's still a lot to be done, but we're heading in the right direction." The next day, Jamal received a phone call from a journalist interested in doing a feature on Voices for Justice. "Hello, Jamal. This is Rachel Adams from the Atlanta Daily," the voice on the other end said. "We're very interested in doing a story about your organization and the work you're doing. Would you be available for an interview?" "Absolutely, Rachel," Jamal responded, excited. "It would be an honor." The interview took place at the Voices for Justice headquarters. Rachel, an experienced and empathetic journalist, asked detailed questions about the organization's mission and goals. "Jamal, what motivates you to keep fighting?" Rachel asked at the end of the interview. "My experience has shown me that injustice is deeply rooted in our society, but it has also shown me the strength of our community when we come together," Jamal replied. "I want to make sure no one else goes through what I went through and that everyone has the chance to live with dignity and respect." The article was published a few days later and received widespread attention. Jamal and his team started receiving support messages from across the country. More people volunteered to help, and Voices for Justice was growing in influence and reach. Over time, the workshops and training programs began to be implemented. Police officers and community members started to get to know each other and work together to create a safer and fairer environment for everyone. Jamal knew the journey was just beginning, but every step taken was a victory. He was determined to keep fighting, with the support of his family, friends, and the community he loved so much. Building bridges between the police and the community was just the start of a path toward a better future. Voices for Justice was growing rapidly, but with growth came new challenges. Jamal and his team faced difficulties maintaining momentum and ensuring their programs remained sustainable and effective. Additionally, there was growing resistance from some sectors opposed to the proposed changes. On a rainy afternoon, Jamal and Marcus were in the organization's conference room, reviewing reports and discussing next steps. "We need to find more funding to continue our programs," Marcus said, flipping through a stack of documents. "Costs have increased, and we have some bills to pay." "I know, Marcus," Jamal replied, looking at his computer. "We're also facing resistance from some people and groups unhappy with the changes we're promoting." "How are you handling that?" Marcus asked, concerned. "We're trying to focus on the positive impact we're making," Jamal said, determined. "We have to stay focused and keep working hard." Meanwhile, a community meeting was scheduled to discuss recent challenges and share updates with Atlanta residents. Jamal prepared to speak, aware that the meeting would be crucial for maintaining community support. On the night of the meeting, the hall was filled with residents, community leaders, and media representatives. Jamal took the stage and began to speak. "Thank you all for being here," Jamal started, with a firm voice. "I wanted to update you on the progress of our organization and also share some of the challenges we're facing." Murmurs of support were heard from the audience. Jamal continued, "As you all know, we're working to improve the relationship between the police and the community and to provide support to those facing discrimination. However, we've encountered resistance and financial difficulties. But despite that, we're committed to moving forward." After Jamal's speech, a member of the audience, a young man named David, raised his hand. "Jamal, do you think we could organize more fundraising events? I have some contacts who might be able to help." "That would be wonderful, David," Jamal replied with a smile. "Any help is welcome. We could also organize more community events to raise awareness and support," suggested Maria, a community leader. "Great ideas," Jamal said, jotting down notes. "Let's work together to implement these suggestions." By the end of the meeting, the atmosphere was more optimistic. The community was eager to support and help Voices for Justice overcome its challenges. Jamal and his team were greeted and praised for their efforts. The following week, Jamal and Kelly were preparing for a fundraising event at the community center. The atmosphere was lively, with live music, food, and various activities to engage the community. "Look, the community is really embracing the cause," Kelly said, watching the crowd. "It's great to see so many people here," Jamal replied, feeling encouraged. "It shows that we're making a difference." During the event, Jamal met with several supporters and personally thanked each one. By the end of the night, they had raised a significant amount of money, which eased some of their financial concerns. Later, Jamal and Lisa were at home discussing the event. "The event was a success, son," Lisa said, serving dinner to Jamal. "I'm so proud of you." "It was an incredible night," Jamal replied with a smile. "And it's great to see the community's support." "What's next?" Lisa asked, curious. "We'll keep working hard and face the challenges as they come," Jamal said, determined. "Our mission is far from over, but every step forward is progress toward justice." That night, Jamal lay in bed thinking about the next steps. He knew that the fight for justice and equality was ongoing and full of obstacles, but he was more determined than ever to keep going. With the support of his community and the strength of his team, Jamal was ready to tackle the next challenges. The journey was far from over, but Jamal's determination and commitment to the cause were unwavering. He was prepared to continue his mission to create a fairer and more equal world. With Voices for Justice now established and strong community backing, Jamal began to see tangible changes. The organization was achieving visible results in its campaigns and events, and the work with the police was making a positive impact. On a sunny day, Jamal and Marcus were at a local school for a recognition ceremony. The school had implemented a new educational program on civil rights in partnership with Voices for Justice. "Look, Marcus, the school did a great job with the decorations," Jamal commented, observing the posters and banners scattered around the auditorium. "Yeah, they really went all out," Marcus replied. "It's great to see the impact we're having in the schools." As the event began, the school principal, Mr. Thompson, took the stage. "It's a pleasure to have everyone here today," Mr. Thompson said, addressing the packed audience of students and parents. "We want to thank Voices for Justice for their partnership and for the work they've done to promote education and awareness about civil rights. Jamal and Marcus were called to the stage to receive an award in recognition of the organization's work. "It's an honor to be here," Jamal said, accepting the award with a smile. "We're happy to see the change we're making and the impact it's having on younger generations." After the ceremony, Jamal met with some students and teachers who were enthusiastic about the new program. "I've learned a lot about my rights and how to handle difficult situations," said a student named Jasmine. "Thank you for teaching us this." "I'm glad to hear that, Jasmine," Jamal replied. "Knowledge is power, and it's important for everyone to know how to stand up for themselves and fight for their rights." As Jamal was getting ready to leave the school, Kelly called him. "Hey, Jamal, do you have a minute?" Kelly asked, her voice concerned. "Sure, Kelly. What's up?" "We've received a report that a group is organizing a protest against Voices for Justice next week," Kelly explained. "They're unhappy with the changes and want to express their dissatisfaction." "That's concerning," Jamal said seriously. "We need to be prepared to handle this calmly and constructively." "I agree," Kelly responded. "I'll make sure we have extra security at the site, and we'll issue a public statement to explain our position." On the morning of the protest, a group of demonstrators gathered in front of the community center. The atmosphere was tense, but Voices for Justice was prepared. Jamal, Marcus, and Kelly met to discuss their strategy. "We need to stay calm and ensure that the dialogue remains open," Marcus said, looking at the group of protesters. "Our priority is to avoid any confrontation." "Agreed," Jamal said. "Let's make our statement and then focus on listening to what they have to say." Jamal took to the stage set up for the protest and began to speak to the crowd, which included both supporters and opponents. "I want to thank everyone for being here," Jamal started. "We understand that there are concerns and differing opinions about the work of Voices for Justice. We are here to listen to those concerns and ensure that our work remains transparent and inclusive." The protesters listened attentively, some with skeptical expressions, others with interest. Jamal continued, "Our goal is to promote justice and equality for everyone. We want to work together to find solutions that benefit our entire community. We are open to dialogue and willing to hear your suggestions." After his statement, Jamal and the team met with some of the protesters to discuss their concerns. The conversation was difficult but productive. Although not everyone agreed with Voices for Justice's approach, the open dialogue helped ease some tensions and laid the groundwork for future discussions. Later, at the organization's headquarters, Jamal met with Kelly and Marcus to reflect on the event. "It was a tough day, but I think we did what we could to keep the dialogue open," Jamal said with a sigh of relief. "I agree," Kelly said. "And despite the difficulties, we had a chance to hear different perspectives and show that we're willing to work together." "Yes, and that's important," Marcus added. "Every challenge is an opportunity to grow and improve." Jamal knew the journey was far from over. There were many obstacles to overcome and many hearts and minds to win. But with the support of his team, the community, and his determination to make a difference, he was ready to face whatever came next. The mission to build a fairer and more equitable world continued, and Jamal was steadfast in his commitment. Voices for Justice was at a moment of significant change. The organization was establishing itself as a vital force for social justice in Atlanta. Jamal and his team were eager to celebrate an important milestone: the opening of a new headquarters for the organization, which would serve as a community center for support and education. The grand opening ceremony was set for a sunny Saturday, and the venue was decorated with banners and flowers. The new headquarters, located in a central neighborhood, had been renovated to provide space for workshops, meetings, and community events. Jamal and Lisa arrived early to help with the preparations. Lisa was excited, putting the final touches on the reception table. "Look at this, Mom," Jamal said, surveying the space. "Everything is coming together." "It looks amazing, son," Lisa replied with a proud smile. "I knew you could do it." As the guests began to arrive, Jamal was greeted by various community members, supporters, and local representatives. Kelly and Marcus were by his side, helping ensure everything went smoothly. The event began with an opening speech. Jamal took the stage, now a bit more relaxed than during his earlier public appearances. "Good afternoon, everyone," Jamal began, looking out at the crowd. "Today, We celebrate not just the opening of this new headquarters, but also the power of a united community working toward a common cause. Applause echoed through the venue as Jamal continued. This headquarters is a space for all of us, a place where we can learn, grow, and fight for justice together. I want to thank everyone who made this possible, our supporters, volunteers, and especially our community. After the speech, the ceremony proceeded with a symbolic ribbon cutting. Jamal, Lisa, Kelly, and Marcus cut the ribbon together, marking the official opening of the new headquarters. Later, during the reception, Jamal met with a group of young community members eager to learn more about the programs offered by Voices for Justice. "So, what are you hoping to find here?" Jamal asked, smiling at the group. "We want to learn more about how we can help our community," replied a young man named Ricardo, "and also how to handle difficult situations." "That's great," Jamal said. "We have a range of programs and workshops that can help you get involved and make a difference." As he spoke with the group of young people, Kelly approached with a special guest, Detective Samuel Rodriguez. "Jamal, I want you to meet Detective Rodriguez," Kelly said. "He came to celebrate with us and see the impact we're making." "It's a pleasure to meet you, Sam," Jamal said, shaking Rodriguez's hand. "Thank you for your continued support." "The pleasure is mine, Jamal," Rodriguez replied with a smile. "I'm impressed with what you've achieved. This center is a testament to the positive impact you can have." "We're just getting started," Jamal said. "There's still a lot to be done, but every step is a victory." As the reception continued, Jamal reflected on the journey he had been through. From the injustice he faced to the creation of Voices for Justice, he had witnessed transformation not only in his own life, but in the lives of many around him. As the sun began to set, Jamal found himself in a quiet corner of the new center, observing the activity around him. Lisa approached and joined him. "Look at this, son," Lisa said, emotionally. "You made this happen." "It was a community effort," Jamal replied, looking at his mother. "And we still have a lot of work ahead." "I know, but you made a difference," Lisa said, giving him a hug. "And that's something to be proud of." As the evening progressed, Jamal and his team were surrounded by friends, family, and community members, all celebrating the success of the new headquarters. Voices for Justice was stronger than ever, and Jamal's commitment to justice and equality was more solid than ever. The event was a milestone, but also a reminder that the fight for justice would continue. Jamal knew that despite the victories, there was still much more to be done. But with the support of his team and the community, he was ready to face whatever came next. As he looked at the glow of the lights in the new community center, Jamal felt a deep sense of hope. He was determined to keep fighting for a future where everyone could live with dignity and respect. And as he looked to the future, he knew that Voices for Justice was poised to make a real and lasting difference.